Ever get bogged down in those endless code reviews? Or documentation that never quite keeps pace with your project?
Tell me about it.
Well, today we're diving into something that might just be a game changer, automating those tasks using AI. Specifically with a framework called CrewAI. Imagine this AI agents going through your pull requests, offering feedback, even updating your documentation. On platforms like GitHub and Bitbucket, no less. Pretty wild stuff, right?
Definitely. And the concept behind CrewAI is what's really intriguing. It's this open source framework that lets you put together, well, crews of AI agents.
Crews, like a pit crew for your code.
Exactly. Each agent has a specific role, like a specialist on your team, and they work together to handle these complex development workflows.
So these AI agents, how do they actually, do things?
You basically define their role, like, say, a code quality analyst. You give them goals and then equip them with tools. These tools can be anything from analyzing code to generating text. You even get to pick which AI models you want to use to power them.
So you could have one that's a real stickler for style and another that's all about security loopholes, right?
Exactly. And these agents, you organize them into crews for specific projects. You define the tasks, how they need to be done, the order, whether they're sequential, parallel, you name it. And if you need a really structured process, there are these things called flows as well.
And one thing that really struck me about CrewAI is that it's a standalone system, which means it's fast, it's not resource heavy, and you have so much control over how these agents operate.
Right. It gives you that fine-grained control. Plus, it's designed to work well with all the popular open source AI models and tools out there.
Now let's bring this back to our main topic, automating pull requests. We all use Bitbucket and GitHub, right? And both platforms have some automation features already built in.
Oh, absolutely. Bitbucket, for instance, it's got pipelines for continuous integration and those merge checks that help enforce your coding standards. And then there are webhooks, these things that send out notifications when specific events happen with your pull requests, like if a new one's opened or it gets updated.
Right, and it also has a REST API, which basically lets other programs talk to it and do things.
Exactly. And GitHub, it's got its own similar features, actions for automation, webhooks, and a REST API as well. And both of these platforms, importantly, they let you add comments to pull requests programmatically.
Okay, so that's where CrewAI comes in, right?
You got it. Imagine creating a code reviewer agent. Its task would be to analyze the code changes in a pull request, flag potential issues, suggest improvements, the whole 9 yards.
Like a tireless automated code buddy.
Yeah, exactly. But to do that, it needs a specific tool. A tool that can actually use the Bitbucket or GitHub APIs of something like the Atlassian Python API or PyGitHub libraries to fetch the code differences and post its feedback as comments.
Makes sense. So what about documentation? How do we automate that?
Well, you could have a documentation specialist agent. This agent would look at the same code changes, but its job would be to update the corresponding documentation.
That's clever.
It might need to access existing documentation files, generate new content based on the code changes, maybe even create a new pull request specifically for the documentation updates. And for a structured task like this, a CrewAI flow might be a good way to go. It'll keep the process nice and consistent.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty. How would we actually implement this? Where do we start?
One of the key approaches here is what's called webhook-triggered crews. It's pretty straightforward, actually. You set up a webhook on a specific pull request event, like when a new pull request is opened. That webhook will then trigger your CrewAI system.
And then what?
Well, the system then grabs all the details of that pull request, what's changed, who made the changes, etc., and then it kicks off the relevant crew or flow, depending on what needs to be done, code review or documentation update. And then it uses those platform APIs to post comments or update the documentation accordingly.
Got it. Now, what are some of the technical considerations here? What do developers need to keep in mind?
Well, there are a few things. First off, you got to decide where you're going to host your CrewAI system. In the cloud, on your own servers, containerized, you've got options. Then there's the security aspect. You're going to be using API keys to allow CrewAI to talk to Bitbucket or GitHub, and those need to be managed securely using environment variables or a proper secrets management system. You'll also need a robust way to handle those incoming webhook requests. Make sure you have reliable endpoints to process those requests and a good logging system in place.
Logging is crucial, yeah.
Absolutely. And especially if you're dealing with a busy repository with a lot of pull requests, you'll want to think about scalability as well. How to make sure your system can handle that volume without choking. And then, of course, there's the whole configuration of your agents.
Right, making sure they're set up to do their jobs properly.
Exactly. You need to define their roles clearly, pick the right AI models for each task, give them very specific instructions. It's like giving your team members a clear briefing before they start working on a project.
Now, are there any existing tools or resources that developers can leverage here
Yeah.
to make things easier?
Oh, for sure. CrewAI has a bunch of built-in tools that can be super useful. But for this specific scenario, you'll likely need to create some custom tools as well, using those libraries we mentioned, PyGitHub for GitHub, and Atlassian Python API for Bitbucket.
To interact with their APIs directly.
Exactly. And there's a really cool example project on GitHub called crewAIInc Demo Pull Request Review. It shows how you can set up AI agents to do code reviews and leave comments. It even shows how to make them take into account related files and past changes in the project. And the CrewAI community, they're constantly exploring how to use it for other development tasks as well, like generating code, writing unit tests. It's pretty versatile.
Sounds like a powerful tool, but what about potential challenges? Are there any roadblocks people might encounter?
Well, like with any new technology, there are a few things to be aware of. For one, setting up those agents and their tasks can get complex. And then, of course, the quality of what those AI agents produce depends on a couple of things, the AI model you're using and how well you've designed the agents themselves.
Right, so it's not just plug and play. It takes some work to get it right.
You got it. And you also got to be prepared to handle those edge cases, those weird bits of code that might trip up your agents. Plus, there's a whole thing about API rate limits. Both Bitbucket and GitHub have limits on how many API requests you can make within a certain time frame. So you got to be mindful of that. And security, obviously, keeping those API credentials safe and sound. And then there's the current limitation that you need those custom tools to integrate directly with Bitbucket and GitHub.
So any best practices that you'd recommend to make sure people get the most out of CrewAI and avoid common pitfalls?
Absolutely. First and foremost, start simple. Don't try to automate everything at once. Pick a small, well-defined task and build from there. And testing, my friend, testing is key. Test your setup thoroughly, make sure everything's working as expected, and especially in the beginning, keep a human in the loop. Don't rely solely on the AI just yet. Have someone review the output, provide feedback, and fine-tune things.
Yeah, having that human oversight is important.
It really is. And monitor your API usage. Keep an eye on those rate limits and make sure your credentials are secure. Use good practices like environment variables or a secrets manager. And when you're giving your AI agents instructions, be very specific. Clear communication is key to getting the results you want.
So to wrap things up, it seems like CrewAI offers a really exciting vision for the future of software development. Automating those tasks that we all know can be quite time-consuming and, let's be honest, a bit tedious at times. Like those code reviews and keeping documentation up to date, it's like having a whole team of tireless assistants at your beck and call.
It is. And for you listening, this deep dive has hopefully given you a glimpse into how AI can help you streamline your workflows, provide insightful analysis, and ensure your project documentation is always on point. Plus, we've shown you some real-world examples and pointed you to some readily available tools so you can start exploring this yourself.
Now, here's a final thought for you to ponder. Imagine this AI agents becoming an integral part of your development routine, not just speeding things up, but also significantly improving the quality and consistency of your team's output. And as these AI collaborators become more sophisticated, what kind of new roles and possibilities might emerge in the world of software development? It's definitely something to think about, and we encourage you to dive into CrewAI and see how it could transform your workflow.
The future is automated.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.